your welfare bill back home, it's shaping up to be a huge test of your authority. If you can't govern your party, how do you govern the country? Thank you.
Well, on the question of Ukraine, the position in NATO has not changed, nor has my position changed. In fact, over the last couple of days, I would say in my discussions with leaders, there's been a real resolve that now is the time to push again to get Putin to the table for the unconditional ceasefire. President Zelensky has, for many weeks now, indicated his willingness to go to an unconditional ceasefire. Now is the time for Putin, who's been dragging his heels, to come to the table. And there's been a lot of discussions with other leaders about seizing that moment to push forward on that initiative. On the question of welfare reform, we're committed to reforming our welfare system. It doesn't work. It traps people. And it has to be reformed.
The benefits bill is soaring and will be, even if you were to pass these measures that now appear to be in jeopardy. You turned on the winter fuel payment, and now you're talking about the prospect of tens of billions of pounds of extra funding for defence over the next decade, alongside that promise that you have to not put up taxes on those you describe as working people. Are those things in combination really credible? And if I may, opposition to your benefits changes is growing. Are you willing to compromise?
Let me take the funding position head on, because we made a commitment in our manifesto to raise defence spending to 2.5% during the course of the Parliament. We then brought that forward to 2027, 2028. And as I did that, I announced where the spending would come from, and it comes from the Overseas Development Aid Fund, not from tax rises. And the same challenge was put to me then, that we would have to tax rise, and we didn't. We made the difficult but right decision in relation to that funding. We have a commitment in our manifesto not to raise taxes on working people, and we will keep to that commitment. But it is right that I reiterate that the first duty of the Prime Minister is to keep the country safe, and that is a duty I take extremely seriously. These are volatile times, and I'm really pleased here at NATO that has been the mood of the summit, and this has been a strengthening of NATO, not just numerically with new members coming this time for their second summit, but a stronger NATO, and a real sense of resolve and purpose coming out of today.
Thank you very much. Andy Bell, 5 News. Prime Minister, in the last few days, President Trump has launched a unilateral attack on Iran, barely giving you any notice. On his way here to this summit, he wasn't able to give a straight answer about whether he believed in the principle of mutual defence within the alliance. Is he really a reliable ally you can trust?
Yes, we work very closely with the United States. We have done for many years. Our teams are constantly talking to each other, as they were throughout last week. You will have observed that after I got back from Canada at the G7, I went straight into a Cobra meeting. The purpose for that was to ensure that we were ready for whatever might happen, including a strike by the US. That was of significant importance to me because, of course, in many bases across the Middle East, we are co-located with the US. And therefore, we were already taking contingency measures last Tuesday because I wanted a high level of assuredness and to be assured personally that we had in place all the necessary measures to deal with whatever the contingency may be. And we were talking to and given notice by the US of their intentions all during the course of last week, and we talked to them all of the time. That is the nature of the relationship between us. That is what's endured for 80 years, and it's as strong now as it's ever been. Thank you very much. I've got David from Mail. David.
Thanks, Prime Minister. On welfare, why have you so spectacularly failed to read the mood among your MPs over this issue? Is it because, as your critics suggest, you don't have the political nous and judgment required for the top job? And just another one on military matters, if I may. It's Armed Forces Week this week, but there's growing concern among veterans about your government repealing the Northern Ireland Troubles Legacy and Reconciliation Act. They fear it will spark a witch hunt against veterans who served in Northern Ireland because it'll end immunity against prosecution. If you care about our armed forces and veterans, why are you opening them up to a legal witch hunt, and will you reconsider repealing that legislation?
Well, look, on welfare, there's a pretty united front in saying we need reform. And you won't find many Labour MPs who are not accepting we need reform. So we're absolutely on the page with them. The question is, how is that reform carried out? And that is why we put forward the provisions in the bill in relation to how we modernise and make fairer and efficient and sustainable our welfare system. And that is what we were elected in to do. We were elected in to change and to deal with and mend that which was broken. That was the mandate that everybody stood on at the last election. And if I may say so, many people predicted before the election that we couldn't read the room. We hadn't got the politics right, and we wouldn't win an election after 2019 because we lost so badly. That was the constant charge at me at press conferences like this, and we got a landslide victory. So I'm comfortable with reading the room and delivering the change the country needs. We've got a strong Labour government with a huge majority to deliver on our manifesto commitments, and that's the work that we did over many years to win the election. Now we start the work over many years to change the country. Having changed the party, we now change the country. The Mirror.
Thank you. Prime Minister, the National Security Strategy yesterday said that the British public need to actively prepare for war on home soil. Should ordinary people be thinking seriously about Cold War-style preparations? And on welfare, your spokesman in London has been making the case that it's moral for MPs to vote against the welfare reforms. Are the 120 Labour MPs who are backing the amendment immoral?
Well, let me deal with the homeland threat, because it is a mistake to think that the only threat we face is external and far off. We do face threats at home all of the time. On a daily basis, there are cyber attacks that have to be dealt with and are being dealt with. They are ever more sophisticated, and we need to have the capability to deal with them. Equally, in relation to energy, that has been weaponised quite obviously in the last few years. You can see that in what's happened in Ukraine, and also on the question of counter-terrorism and state-backed actions in our country that are a very big threat, with very many attempts to penetrate our systems having been dealt with by our security and intelligence services. But the fact that they are very good at their job shouldn't detract from the fact that that is a real threat to our country, which we have to take seriously. And that is why it's in our strategic defence review, is why I've always felt it should be part of what we consider to be the defence of our country. A cyber attack is an attack on our country by our adversaries quite openly. And Russia and Iran are carrying out those attacks on a regular basis. And we have to be prepared for them. In relation to welfare, the argument I would make is that it is a Labour government that should reform welfare. If the welfare system isn't working for those that need it, and it's not, it's a Labour government that should make it work for the future. And just as it was a Labour government that created the welfare system in the future, it falls to this Labour government to make sure we've got a welfare system that's sustainable for the future to come. So much like we did on health, we created the health service, and now we have to ensure that it's fit for the future. Same with welfare. That is a progressive argument, that is a Labour argument, and it's the right argument to make.